Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. So it's been a minute, actually it hasn't been that long since I've done a SWI video or still worth it video, and I love doing these things. I love taking a look at technology. Now granted, there's not a lot of development going on for a lot of phones in the later part of the year. Yes, we've seen the new Samsungs, iPhones, Googles, but in terms of really for the older phones, there's not a lot that's been happening. But what I will say is that a new version of One UI is coming out for One UI 2.0, and that will actually directly affect this phone, which is super exciting. I can't wait for that to come out officially. The specific phone we're doing a SWI on right now is the Samsung Galaxy Note 9. Now, this phone did come out just a little bit over a year ago, so it came out in 2018 in the month of August, and now it's actually going to be about like a year and like 2-3 months. And I'll definitely tell you, no matter what anybody says, I think the grand consensus of the Galaxy Note 9 is that it's probably the greatest Samsung Galaxy Note phone that was ever released, in my opinion, and based off a lot of people's too. I mean, I've made several videos talking about this. Once the Note 10s came out, I was like, dude, the Note 10 is really not up to par with the Note 9. I think the Note 9 is a tremendous phone. I think it's probably in a lot of ways better than the Samsung Galaxy Note 10 and even the Note 10 Plus. Granted, now there's some cooler things with the Note 10 Plus, but for the standard Note 10, the Note 9 beats that. And it's not every time that we get to say a predecessor is better than the successor. So, I mean, whenever there's an advantage like that, I love talking about that and hitting all those points. Now, looking at the front of the Samsung Galaxy Note 9, this is one of the biggest advantages for this specific phone. You have a 6.4-inch 1440p panel in the later part of 2019 and going into 2020. That is still a humongous grand advantage that you have for a phone like this. I mean, there's not a lot of phones out there that have like 6.4-inch screens, but on top of that, nowadays we have phones like with notches and this and that, and this phone, even though it has a little bit of bezel on it, the screen to body ratio is 83%, which is still pretty good. It doesn't have any of those holes in the screens or anything like that, so it looks like a very premium feeling and kind of professional phone, if you will. Now, you do have that S Pen feature, which is super cool, which, you can dislocate from the bottom. You have the headphone jack and a USB Type-C port, and those two things right there are probably a good enough reason for a lot of people to keep this phone. You still have that USB Type-C port to go through whatever you want to, but the headphone jack is there. They took it out with the Note 10 and Note 10 Plus, but you have that advantage with this phone, which is super awesome. On the back, you have a dual camera setup, and I'll hit on those in a second. And man, overall the outside, it's held up so well, it's not even funny. It also has IP68 industrial water resistance, which is awesome. But the best thing about this phone that in my opinion is really awesome that the Note 10 lacks is the micro SD card slot. So you can go up to 1 terabyte of extra storage, where the Note 10 standard one does not have that. The top tier model has it, the Note 10 Plus, but the bottom variant does not have it. And you know what, say what you will, I know a lot of people are going to be like iffy about it. I would rather have a phone with 128 gigs in it, but have the ability to put more storage in it. I would rather buy more memory and expand those out however you want to than just have a phone with like 256 gigs or 512 gigs. I would rather have the phone with a smaller variant that I can expand the storage. So that's just my take on it. And with the Note 9, you have that capability, which is awesome. And I literally love that so much. Now that pretty much covers up mostly everything on the outside. Not much has changed from the beginning of this year. You still have that fingerprint sensor on the back. The Note 10, they moved it up to the front, which is awesome and everything, but we've seen some kind of security concerns happen with that, which I'm not even going to hit on too much, but just keep that in mind. Yeah, I'll let you guys read into that. But with this one, you have that fingerprint sensor on the back, which I've always loved, and still feeling like a premium phone. Feels like a very good phone. Doesn't feel cheap at all, and I don't think anybody's sitting here saying it feels like a cheap phone. So shout out to Samsung, they made this phone feel very nice. So that pretty much covers up everything on the outside. Now, I talked about the software kind of initially in the beginning of this video, and I'll hit on it again. It did start off with Android 8.1. You are able to put Android 9.0 on it with their One UI, which is super nice. One UI 2.0 is coming out, like I stated, and it's definitely coming out for the Samsung Galaxy Note 9. As of me making this video, I don't think there's been a beta out for specifically the Note 9, but I have been running it on my Samsung Galaxy S10, and I did a video talking about the top features and everything on it, and I think, dude, it's a really cool piece of software. I think it's definitely going to be a hit. They didn't really, up the ante. They didn't really go too crazy with it, which I think, it turns out in their favor. They're not going to go insane with it, which is good. They kept it very minimalistic, or as minimalistic as they can get, and I think that's a super smart thing for them to do. If they push too many boundaries, if they try to add 30,000 features, they might have tried to, they might have messed up something, knowing Samsung. So One UI 2.0 is adding a lot of cool things, and this phone is supported with it. And the sad thing is that it's probably not going to go much further than that, but also on the other part, there's going to be third-party support. There's going to be a lot of development support support for this phone specifically, because I think a lot of people still love this phone. So you can always throw on a custom ROM if you want to. So kind of keep that in mind. Yes, on stock, you're getting another version of Android, which is awesome. But even if that does go away, you can always throw a custom ROM on it. So kind of keep that in mind while you're continuing on it, or you're looking for a phone or something. So in terms of software, that pretty much covers it. Like I said, the main thing is the next version of Android 10, is probably coming on it, and it's coming in One UI 2.0. So that pretty much covers it up in terms of software. Moving on to the performance side of things, this thing has a Qualcomm Snapdragon 845 chipset, an octa-core CPU with 2 different variants. The bottom tier model has 128 gigs with 6 gigabytes of RAM, and the mid-tier model is 512 gigabytes with 8 gigabytes of RAM. Now, like I stated earlier, microSD card slot, so I don't want to hate on it too much for the base model. The Note 10 only has one model of the 256 gig. The Google Pixel 4 XL's top tier model is 128 with no expandable storage, which is insane. And kind of seeing those phones come out now and kind of comparing it to this phone from 2018, I mean, that's a pretty big deal. I cannot believe phone manufacturers still haven't really expanded that yet. So say what you will, but the Note 9 in terms of even just those specific standpoints is pretty impressive. In terms of the performance though, now I did have the base model with the 6 gigabytes of RAM, and I literally had no problems at all. I felt like this phone was literally one of the fastest phones I've owned, and when I compared it to the Galaxy Note 10, I was finding myself saying the same exact thing. I was like, dude, this phone is still a super competitive phone. It wasn't completely slow from the Note 10. Yes, it kind of messed up here and there. It was kind of glitchy, whatever, but that's kind of expected when you get up in the $1,000 phone range, which the Note 9 kind of was at the time it was released. You should expect to get better performance with the Note 10 and all those things, and you did, but it wasn't like a 10 out of 10 every time. Like, it was probably like, if the Note 10 was a 10 out of 10, the Note 9 was probably like a 9.5 out of 10. Like, it's pretty much like that. Minor apps, all those things handle very, very well. Mid-tier apps handle pretty good as well, and the top tier apps handle fine as well, like Real Racing 3, whatever you want to do. If you're multitasking from one app to the other, you'll be perfectly fine as well. And basically, to kind of do like the performance is never a bad thing. Even dude, on the Galaxy Note 8, I found myself not complaining about the performance. That was also a very tremendous performing phone for the price and for the time. The Note 9 is more of the same. I don't find myself complaining about the performance. It's fast enough for the most part. If you're trying to do like 30,000 things, if you're trying to say it's as fast as the Note 10 or whatever, it probably isn't. But for the majority of people watching this and for the majority of people who are buying phones, I think it's a very good performing phone overall, and it's still, dude, a way above average in my opinion. For if you're spending the money on this phone, you're probably not going to spend more than like $350 on it, and for the value you're getting of it, even just based off the performance, is pretty impressive. So that pretty much covers it up in terms of the performance side of things. Let's go ahead on the camera, and like I stated, 2 12 megapixel sensors on the back. The main sensor has optical image stabilization, and the second lens, which is a telephoto lens, also has optical image stabilization, which is really nice, and you're able to shoot 4K at up to 60 frames per second, and the camera is very good. It's just like a standard Samsung camera. They really knock the ball out of the park every time with these. Now with the Note 10, I will say it does have more camera features and more video features, which is nice. Audio recording apparently is very, very nice on the Note 10 as well, and I don't really have too much to say about that. Of course, it should be better because you're paying more for it, but without a doubt, the Note 9, in my opinion, I'm not a huge camera fanatic, even though I'm starting to do more camera comparisons. The Samsung Galaxy Note 9 camera is literally just a thumbs up in my books. The front camera is 8 megapixels, and it's 1440p. And I've seen a lot of things about this camera. I'm not really too much of a fan about it. I feel like they did really, really good with the back camera, but then with the front, they didn't mess up, but it's not as good quality as I thought they would do. So hopefully in the future, they can kind of, do a better job with it. But regardless, both cameras, even the front and the back, combined, they're good. Both back cameras especially are very, very good in my opinion. So that covers it up in terms of the camera sensors. Let's go and talk about the battery, which in my opinion is one of the biggest advantages for this phone. Now, the Note 10 has a smaller battery than the Samsung Galaxy Note 9. The Note 10 Plus has a little bit of a bigger battery though, so keep that in mind. Now with the Samsung Galaxy Note 9, with that 4000 mAh battery, it is literally just the perfect size in my opinion for how powerful this phone is and for how big the screen is. That battery size is so good in my opinion. If they went up, that would have been even better, but the 4000 mAh, I have nothing to complain about. You do have wireless charging, which is really cool, but since this phone's release, we have seen some really cool features like reverse wireless charging, which the Note 10 has and the S10 has, but really, even with that being said, I don't feel myself wishing, oh man, I wish I had wireless charging on this phone, or I wish I had reverse wireless charging. Sorry, Like, I don't see myself or anybody really complaining about that too much. And honestly, I don't really even hear anybody using those features on their phones. Like, since its release, it's just like a feature everybody knows, but nobody uses it. I've never used it before on my S10 or any of my phones, so I think it's cool in theory, but in practicality, I don't really know anybody who uses it that much. But what I will tell you is that in terms of the battery, it's probably degraded a little bit, but not enough for you to go and complain about. So with that being said, I love this battery life. And to kind of sum up this whole entire thing, bro, like, this phone is a very solid phone still. You know, like I stated, these things are just like insane values for what you're getting. A gigantic screen, very little bezel, great cameras, great build quality, S Pen, micro SD card slot. I mean, you name it, this phone probably has it. IP certification as well. And when you're feeling this phone, when you're messing with it, it literally feels like a gem. It feels like the perfect phone. And for a majority of you, it might just be the perfect phone. If you currently own like a super old phone or something like that, whether Android or iOS or whatever, dude, the Note 9, for the price you're going to pay for it, I think you're going to be paying around $380 for it, give or take a little bit here and there. And with that price tag, it is such a competitive price, let me tell you, dude. With the Note 10, I wouldn't pay for the Note 10 price. The Note 10 Plus, you know, those are probably have gone down in value a little bit, but the Note 9 is literally one of the best deals in my opinion, and you should definitely pick one up. It's still worth it in the later part of 2019. It's still going to be worth it next year, and I'll revisit it in a month or two to kind of give you guys a little update in case anything happens once One UI 2.0 comes out and everything. But that's pretty much it, guys. If you want to pick up a Samsung Galaxy Note 9, I'll leave the cheapest ones I find on Amazon. I'll link them straight down in the description below so you guys can get them from there and help support the channel at the same time. That pretty much covers that. If you have any questions or anything, leave it down in the comment section below. Hit that like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. Every single subscriber that we get really does count, so it would mean so much if you guys could hit that. Also, check out the other links down in the description as well. My Twitter, my Instagram, my second channel, all those links are linked down below. I'd really appreciate it if you guys could check it out. But more importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.